Hey, friends. Happy Thrive Thursday. I'm so excited to bring this episode to you today. I absolutely love telling my story of how I started a personal chef business because it is so unique. Every personal chef that I meet, we all have a different story. All have a love and passion for food and for serving people, but how we all got to the personal chef business is a little bit different. And I still think today, even after personal chefs have been around for, I don't know, 20, 25 years now, it's not new in the food industry, but it certainly is still a little bit of an unknown. So I'm excited to bring a little bit more of that knowledge and my experience to you today to share it with you. So, welcome, welcome. If you are new here, I am Rebecca, personal chef, kitchen confidence coach, and mentor for women who love food and want to build flexible, purposeful businesses. So if you've ever dreamed of working in food but weren't sure how to make it a real business that fits your family, your faith, and your future, today's episode is for you. I am pulling back the curtain on how I built my personal chef service, not overnight, not by accident, but through passion, planning, and purpose. All right, so drop down below. Let me know. Have you ever even thought about it? With all the celebrity chefs, all the social media focus on food, there's just a lot of newness, right? I mean, we have a food culture today and a food learning culture today that we didn't have 20, 25, 30 years ago. It was a little bit different, right? So a little bit about me, how I went from being overwhelmed to fully booked. So food has always been a huge part of my family on both sides. Our culture, our traditions, our connection, perhaps your families are the same. I knew that I always wanted a food-related business just because I think it was modeled for me in my own family, right? Being the kitchen was the most important room in the house. And we didn't cook fancy food, but we cooked flavorful food, and we cooked a lot of food. I come from a big family, and both of my parents come from large families as well. So it was just part of how I grew up, right? Maybe you can relate. Cooking for friends, cooking for family, trying new recipes. This was also how I found myself recharging on evenings and weekends when I was working and teaching full time, both at a private girls' school and also in ministry. So I had explored the restaurant world through internships, free internships, right? Worked for a few chefs in the Boston area when we lived up in Boston. But quickly, I was already married. Quickly, I realized that that lifestyle was not going to fit with the family life that my husband and I wanted to create, wanted to have with our eventually when we had children. So the hours, the pace, the repetition. Now, I did learn a lot. I can hull strawberries like nobody's business, and I can roll brioche rolls like nobody's business. And I know some tricks for a couple of fancy dishes too from one of the more upscale restaurants that I worked in. I was in a couple of pastry kitchens and also in a couple of savory kitchens. But again, the hours, the pace, the repetition, it really wasn't the kind of lifestyle that I was looking for. And the same friend, the good friend who had set me up with these experiences also suggested, hey, you know what? Personal chefing is becoming a thing. And I was like, what now? That sounds a little more daunting than we're just working as a line cook in a restaurant, right? But what is a personal chef? A personal chef is basically a private chef for multiple clients. So you're not living in home, you're not serving 3 meals a day, now there's all different kinds of private chef models as well, but they do have it's a slightly different focus when you exclusively serve one family, right? So as a personal chef though, I can serve multiple clients. I can set my own hours, which is great. I can take on one client per week, or I have the flexibility to fill up my entire schedule, which is where I'm at now. So I can grow my income according to my needs, my flexibility, time of life, right? And the great thing about this was no formal training required. Now you do know how to cook. You do need to know how to cook, and you probably want to be pretty confident that your food is, you know, is good and is enjoyed, but there is no culinary degree that's required. It's not like you're applying, to be a personal chef and you have to put on there, went to the CIA or went to the Escoffier School of Culinary Arts or such, right? All you need are good cooking skills, uh, the need and the drive to be of service to others, and certainly passion, certainly heart. So it took me 5 years from dreaming about this business to actually making it happen. But when I was ready, I got serious really fast. And here's what happened. So here's what I had when I started. I had years of personal cooking experience. I learned how to cook from my mom, from my grandma. I was doing pastry crust at 12 years old. I remember we were living in Africa at the time and doing butter pastry crust because you didn't have access to, or I don't think we could ever find shortening. Which is, the classic Crisco crust, right? So working with butter crust in Africa at the age of 12, I learned an awful lot. But I learned how to cook family recipes. And again, nothing fancy, but, stir fries. My dad's Filipino, so stir fries, adobo. And then I learned all of that good American comfort home cooking from my mom's side of the family. So I had years of personal cooking experience, both for fun and stress relief. I had a passion for food, for hospitality, as I saw it modeled growing up. And I also always had a very strong work ethic and a willingness to learn. I love to learn. I was watching all of those PBS shows, as many as I could watch, of all those chefs who now all have YouTube channels and Instagram accounts. So it's absolutely fabulous, right? So, but what I didn't have was a culinary degree. I had gone to college and gotten a philosophy degree, too, in fact. I didn't have fancy equipment. You don't need a commercial kitchen as a personal chef. You work privately in your clients' homes, both for meal preparation as well as any kind of in-home events. You use your client's kitchen, so no commercial licensing or et cetera required. And I also didn't have a huge budget for marketing, right? When I decided to actually launch my personal chef business, my husband and I were both teachers at private schools. And at that time, I was home with our two little kids who were under the age of 5. We were in the middle of diapers for 2 kids and diapers. So huge budget for doing a startup business was not there. But the great thing about a personal chef business is that it doesn't require a huge fund to get started, and you can easily and quickly make back whatever you decide to invest. So what I did decide was worth investing in was joining an association of personal chefs. So I had access to startup plans. I had access to recipe banks, tried and true recipes, right? I had my own personal recipes, but tried and true recipes for clients is a great place to start, right? And most importantly, I had access to mentorship. There were chef mentors in this group who had been in the business, in the food industry, in the restaurant world, in catering, in you name it. And they had the wealth of experience that they all shared for not just cooking and serving clients, but also for marketing was absolutely incredible. So I studied late nights, learning all the business basics, menu planning, offers, pricing, marketing. Back then, this was in the early 2000s. Well, not earliest, it was around 2007. I stayed up late on, in chat groups, asking questions, reading all the threads, conversation threads that I could possibly read, studying menus, how to put together time efficient menus, cooking efficient menus. And so then I wrote a simple business plan that had very simple goals because I did have 2 young kids at home, and I was only going to be available a couple times a week, maybe to start with, right? So what happened then? Well, I launched online with a basic website. And I started talking about what I offered. I was in a couple of moms groups. And so I did a couple of casual cook dates for some of the moms that I knew, not in exchange for pay, but in exchange for recommendations or in exchange for goods that they themselves were making. One of my friends was a really good baker. I mean, I love to bake too, but she baked things I didn't. So we exchanged, right? But this gave me practice, and this gave me some, just some experience in other people's kitchens, which is different, right? It's different to work in someone else's kitchen than it is to cook dinner at 6 o'clock in your own. So within 6 months of hanging out my shingle on the internet, I outgrew that basic plan. I had hit all the goals that I wanted to hit. My association actually recognized me as the August Personal Chef of the Month. And so it was time to expand my services. My client list grew, and I realized it wasn't about having a perfect plan, because none of this was planned perfectly, right? It was about having a plan and putting in the work to set myself up for success. So I did as much as possible as I could. Now, remember, there were about 5 years in between, hey, maybe you want to think about becoming a personal chef, to, oh, I think I want to be a personal chef. So I had time to think about it, and I had time to dream about it and figure out how it might work. But right, actually getting in there and doing the work and launching it, all kinds of unexpected things can happen. So I could have waited until I felt ready, right? But if I had waited until I felt ready, I would probably still be waiting. How many times has that happened to you, right? Or to people that we know? There are things that we want to do, oh, maybe I'll write a cookbook. Well, maybe I'll sell a course or write a course. Maybe I will, and then life happens, right? So, waiting is not always the best plan. Obedience and faith means saying yes to what's on your heart and trusting God with the next step. And that's exactly what I did. I took the leap. I was being led. I felt like I was being led. It felt like the right time. It felt like the right moment. My business wasn't built on perfection. It was built on faith in action, on showing up and serving well. And I want that for you too. So you don't need a perfect plan. You just need a plan that reflects your gifts and your season and the courage to start. So, my friend, if you feel that nudge to serve through food, don't ignore it. You can build a business that honors your family, your faith, and your future. The restaurant industry is notorious for being a money loss, right? But the good news is personal chef business is not. So if this is something that interests you, drop 5 to grab my first 5 clients guide for free, or message me if you want to talk about mentorship, about coaching. I'd love to help you get started on your own personal chef journey. Your dream isn't random. It's just waiting for you to take that next step. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I can't wait to see you next week.